I just could never really teach them the way I want to because they always just talking over me, you know? So, but I actually think they're really, really smart. And she said the opposite. She does talk a lot, which is why I can put her over by herself. But it's nice to know, even with the why is math important, I'm always the one stressing getting cheated out of money because I don't like getting cheated out of money. So that was interesting.
That stuck with
like
her.
I always tell them, you know, I always calculate before the cash register when I go places how much change I should get back, just because I don't want to get the wrong change back. So that was interesting. But it's also interesting because I never really thought about, I knew it was the last period of the day, but I never thought about how they're kind of anxious for connections to go ahead and get there and whatnot. So, yeah. And it's nice to know that she thinks I care. So.
Absolutely. And evidence of that is in how you call them back and you tell them to get back on task. And those things make a difference. And that's what she noticed as her rationale for how you care.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really did make my day.
Good.
Funny.
Good. Well, some of the things that I heard from your reflection, one, that you really believe in your students in the sixth period and in their abilities. Two, that they have internalized that you care about them, and they've internalized some of the messages that you give them, like the one about money. So, with that in mind, what do you think is at stake if we're not addressing or solving the problem of students talking, the social aspect?
Everything.
Everything's at stake?
Everything's at stake. Them learning's at stake. My mental stability is at stake. Everything.
Yep.
My job, all that stuff. Yeah. That's like everything.
Yeah.
Just everything's at stake. When I think about it, I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh.
Teacher, the time is now 5:15. Please go ahead and escort your students to the front. The time is now 5:15. Please go ahead and escort your students to the front. Remediation is over.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there thinking, oh gosh, Harry Carl and Reed are just gonna be so upset with me. Except for math teachers.
Upset with you? Why?
But these kids, knowing or not knowing what they do or don't know.
But I wouldn't even worry so much about others as much as like you and like your investment in your students. You know, and the reason that you wanted to be a teacher, even if not long term, you know, but like for now, the reason that you signed up, the reason you joined, and like the impact that you can make, the impact that you can see evidence of already having made, and of what's possible tomorrow, even. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, I was honestly thrilled when you gave me the opportunity to lead the classroom there. What were your reflections from that time?
I was just thinking, oh, thank God someone's going to teach them. Because I wasn't going to. I really wasn't. And so when you came in, I was like, what? I really had not planned on teaching them. After the first whatever minutes, after it became, 1:15, I was like, oh, well, the day's over with. So, yeah. So, I mean, it was cool. Nice to not have to teach.
That wasn't what I wanted you to take away from it, though.
I know, but you asked me, so.
Well, I'm glad you shared. That's true. Okay, what about on like the technical side of things, though? Were there moves that you noticed me make, or things that you noticed me say that got the students' attention, or that moved the learning forward?
I mean, I noticed that you said the expectations, but honestly, I was not really thinking during that time.
You were more like, great, let me take my break, like, or let me just be.
Basically.
I understand that. Do you think? That's a leading question. I don't know how to pose it as a question. But you know that you can't continue that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That I didn't know how to say that otherwise.
Oh,
because of what's at stake. You know? Yeah, and so I guess where I want to go with this then is I have a lot of ideas of what tactics you could start to use. I know when we talked last, we talked about me coming in and doing more of a heightened cycle. So we'll start the heightened cycle, and like I will be here to not lead the class. I can do that if need be, if need be. But
Right.
you are perfectly capable of leading the classroom from the beginning of the bell to the end of the bell with instruction. I know you are.
Today just was not the day.
Today was just not the day.
It wasn't.
Yeah. But we need to make tomorrow and the day after that and all of those days the days.
I know.
So I think what would be best is to target what was it about today that made it not the day, so that we can know like what to focus. Oh, sure.
Sorry. This shot is a little big. Is your mother ready to go? No. Oh, okay. Wait. Bye.
Because the truth is, days like today are going to happen again. You know, there are going to be days when you're not feeling it, or days when the students aren't feeling it. But every day that the students aren't feeling it and we allow them not to feel it is a day that injustice is happening. Honestly, when the room is not learning, that's another day that they're falling behind. And so I think we need to figure out what do we do on those days that can make sure that we turn the switch so that learning does happen. Even on the day when you're like, nope, it's sunk.
I don't know. Go to sleep and wake up and try again.
Yeah?
Oh,
Well, it starts with you, and it starts with your belief. If you don't believe that, I mean, like you even said, you're like, they're not going to learn today, you know?
I didn't mean because they're not going to learn.
Right.
I meant because I'm not going to teach them.
Exactly, and that's what I mean too. And so it starts with you, and when you've made that decision, well, then of course they're not going to learn, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I gotta work on some strategies for that, but I don't know.
Well, let's work on some strategies for that then. So,
never mind.
So when you're feeling like you're not going to teach them, is it just exhaustion? Is that the biggest thing? I mean, you said like you don't want to talk over them.
No,
For me, that was exhausting.
frustration.
Okay.
It's frustrating knowing that I care more about their education than they do. Why? It's frustrating trying to get them to quiet down. It's the same routine every day, yet we just can't seem to get together.
Gotcha.
So that's frustrating knowing that it just, today I'm just like, I'm not even about to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Sounds to me then like we need to change the routine. Because I think you're frustrated with trying a procedure that isn't working and like continuing to try that and knowing that your heart is in the right place and that you're expressing that to them, but they're not receiving it in the same way. I noticed a little bit of that disconnect in my observation today, where what I perceived, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but what I perceived was Miss Young is being silent because she's not going to talk over her students, and she wants them to realize that she's waiting on them. What the students were perceiving is, I'm not being given directions right now, therefore I can do whatever I want. And so we had this cycle of the students continuing to do whatever they want while Miss Young is waiting for them to act right. But them not realizing that Miss Young's giving me a sign, because sixth graders respond to the verbal cues, and the verbal cues with the reinforcement. Because like you were throwing in directions, but there wasn't like the narration following those directions to make sure 100% of the students, like when you say a direction, you gotta mean it. But what I mean by mean it is like you gotta intend to follow through with everybody doing that direction. So if you just say something and then you try to move on to the next thing, but you haven't checked to make sure everyone's followed, then students are going to question how serious you were about that instruction. does that make you think?
I don't think that with these kids.
Okay.
I think they know good and well what they're supposed to be doing and when they're not doing it. I was not necessarily waiting on them. At that point, it got crazy because you came in, I knew you wanted to observe. And so I'm going back and forth in my head, like, how do I tell them I'm going to have to teach these kids right now? And so that's what was happening. Because I wasn't waiting on them to do the right thing, because at that point I knew I wasn't making them.
So you would like to let go of the reins?
At that point, I was debating with myself if I really couldn't sit here and try to teach them in 10 minutes, or they couldn't consider it right. So.
But they weren't even writing.
Huh?
Like writing what?
Oh, it was writing, just because I know they hate writing, and it was to keep them quiet. So they was writing respect and what it means.
I didn't observe any students writing that.
I know, because you came in during locker break.
So,
before locker break, that's what they were doing.
Gotcha. And what was the expectation for them to be doing after locker break?
Right. That's what the expectation was. After a certain time, that's what it was.
Gotcha. But did you observe that happening after locker break?
No, because that's not what happened.
Yeah.
You came in through everything. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm getting observed. So that's what happened.
Yeah, I just wanted us to get to a point in those moments, because I mean, you were even able to see with my modeling that they could learn a lesson, in 5 minutes.
Right.
It wasn't the most well executed, but they followed along and they were all paying attention. And you can do that and more with a very limited amount of time. And it starts with you.
I agree.
So okay, well good, you agree. So, so let's outline a plan then for what you can try and what I can do to support you in that, which I think is gonna be me coming in for the next few weeks, once a week, and giving you that support, however that looks, so that we can debrief, we can talk about it, we can build forward. I think it's gonna be a good day. I do. Let me get my calendar. Okay, I already was anticipating this because of our last conversation. Well, we said it in our last conversation, so this shouldn't be a surprise. Here we go. So we are in March. There you are. I'll see you next week on Wednesday, if that works. Do you know, if you have tests or anything?
No, I'm testing Monday, Tuesday, I believe.
Oh, so Wednesday would be a good day then. And then I want to come. I could come that Thursday then. So I could do, because this is a flex day for things like this. So I could do Wednesday of next week, Thursday of the week after that, and then Monday of the week after that. Boom, 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 boom. Do you know if there will be any tests or conflicts with any of those days?
Not that I know of, but that's really...
Not Monday, I'm sorry, Tuesday. That's a Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday.
Oh, okay. We can't do anything during planning that day, because I have to. And that day I may have a meeting, Wednesday.
So we could do after schools again.
I'm supposed to be tutoring that day after school. So that day after school works, I guess.
What about Thursday?
Thursday should be fine. Those days are set aside for parent meetings, so yeah.
Do you know if the planning would work on Thursday?
That's what I mean. Those days are set aside for parent meetings.
Gotcha.
So Thursday after school, that's
cool. And since this will be the last one, we could also do the alignment conversation the next day or something.
okay.
Cool. Okay, so we got kind of a calendar of when I'm going to be coming in. What I want us to do then is land on the next steps that you'll need to start practicing in the classroom so that we're building that muscle, which I would consider a mindset issue at this point.